So this morning, I had a doctor's appointment. And when I was leaving my appointment, I said a quick prayer. I said, Lord, I pray that there is a parking spot for me when I get to work. I said, please let there be a parking spot, up close in the front when I get to work. Well, and I asked that because here at the city of Plano, parking, even though the parking, we have a couple areas, front and back of the building and on the side, it can get really busy and it fills up quickly. So we have overflow parking as well. That is like across the street. It's down the street across a ways. It's not far. It's just, it's not convenient, so to speak. So and that's considered overflow for when the parking lot is just full and there's nowhere else to go, because we have quite a few visitor spots as well. So when I got to work, and as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, I went around like the front of the building. I pulled in. As I'm driving around the front, immediately I see someone backing out right in the very front of the building. I mean, awesome parking spot. Okay, I couldn't have asked for a better place to park. So I stopped, let them back out, and guess what I did? I said, you know what? I'm going to drive around and see if I can find a better spot. So I drove around because I was looking for something that was close to the door that I normally enter, that was close to my department. I said, if I go, just drive around, let's see if there's something on the other side. So, of course, I drive around. There's nothing. I drive across to the other parking spot over near the IT building on the side, like where customers normally come in to pay their bills. There was nothing. It was completely packed. So I drove back around. As I'm driving back around to go back and get my spot, I saw someone driving past and they pulled right in. So they got my spot. I was like, oh my goodness. And I was like, that was so stupid of me. I should have taken the spot when I saw it. And this is what I want to say to you guys. And I even wrote a few notes because this thing hit me hard, and you may think it's just a parking spot, but I'll explain why. Here's the thing. God's provisions may not always look the way you think they should look. A lot of times we're looking for something familiar in the old spot, in our old place of where we're used to going, and God is providing somewhere new. And just because I had to enter through a different door, I drove around. I was like, you know what? I don't want to go in through this door. I'm going to drive around. So I drove around and ended up missing my spot. So when God's provision may not always be where it used to be. He may be providing somewhere new. Like I said, you might have to take a different route. So don't overlook what God is providing you with. Don't overlook his provision is what I'm trying to say. Looking for something else, looking for something better. Because a lot of times what we think is better is not better. When God provides, it is always his best. But a lot of times we're leaning on our own understanding. And like I said, looking for something else when God's best is right there in front of you. And this is another point I wanted to make, that God does hear our prayers and he answers. A lot of times what we're looking for is right in front of us, but we will miss it because we're looking in a different place, or we're looking for something else. We're looking for it to look a certain way. We're looking for it to come a certain way, or we don't want to be inconvenienced. So we think, I'm going to look for something else. But then when I went back, guess what? It was gone. And, people always say that, well, if it's meant for you, it's for you. Yeah, it is for you. God answered my prayers. That parking spot was for me. As soon as I pulled in and drove around, the guy was backing out and I stopped, let him back out. But guess what I did? I drove past it. I gave it up and someone else pulled right in. Once I went back for it, it was gone. So don't miss out on what God has for you, looking for something else, and then you double back. You try to go back for what he gave you, the absolute best, because it might be gone. So I just wanted to let you guys know that today. I had to talk about that. And some of the other things that I wrote down, let me see here. Because, see, I don't want to miss any of this. And then this was the other thing here. When I did find a spot, I had to drive around a couple of times. So I did find a spot, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to park here. I think this is available. So I parked, I backed in, straightened my car up, got out. And then I looked back. I said, I think this is a visitor spot, but I couldn't tell because it was grayed out. But then I looked up and I saw a sign and it said visitors, and it had an arrow pointing to where that whole row of where I was parked was visitors. And I didn't see it. So now I'm thinking, well, I need to get inside because I was already running close to the leave time that I had set aside. I'm like, I got to get inside. So I'll move my car on my lunch break. Here's the thing. Being in God's provision, he's going to cover you. There is protection under what God tells you to do. But when we step outside of that to do something different, now you're anxious, you're worried, you're concerned because you decided to do something that you wanted to do versus what he told you to do. You went your own way. So that's another thing. We have to be mindful of these things. And you might say, well, it was just a parking spot, because when I went inside, I was feeling a bit uneasy. I wasn't settled. And that's because I was outside of his provision. I was in the visitor's parking spot. I was in violation. And a lot of us out here in these streets are in violation of what we're involved in, something that we want and not what God has provided or where he has told us to go. We're in places we shouldn't be, jobs we shouldn't be working in, dealing with people we shouldn't be dealing with, doing things we shouldn't be doing. We're in violation. We're not protected. We're not under God's provision. But if you go where God provides, if you seek out his direction and follow it, he's going to protect you and he will provide for you in that space. But see, by me being in violation in a different spot, in a visitor spot, so now I'm sitting there worrying, like, I hope no one sees my car there. And then it's going to take you more time because on lunch, I moved my car. And that's the same with you. So when you're in violation, now you're going to have to be rerouted. So I just wanted to talk to y'all about that today, just to give you that thing, because the Holy Spirit dropped that in my spirit as soon as I drove past that spot. And I knew it. After I drove past, I said, you know what? That was a parking spot that I prayed about. God answers you. He hears our prayers and he answers just like that. But a lot of times we don't even see it. Or when we do, we're on the hunt for something better. So don't overlook God's provision. His best is always the best, not your best. Don't lean into your own understanding or go searching, looking out for something else when God has given you the absolute best. That's all I'm trying to say, because there's a whole lot of, there's a lot that comes with that. Like I said, you're going to end up in violation, seeking out something else. All right. I'll talk to y'all later.